Hello, my dear students. I am back with my lecture Constitutional Development of India. Yesterday, I have taught you two important acts: the Act of 1786 and the Act of 1793. But I want to mention something. Yesterday, I mistakenly told 1781 in place of 1786. But later, I have improved it. I hope you will forgive me for that. But later I have told you that I was teaching the Act of 1786. Whatever provision I have taught you yesterday, it was concerned with the 1786 and 1793. And today I am going to start another most important topic under this chapter known as Constitutional Development of India. The two main important topic is that the Act of 1813 and the Act of 1833. So many times question has been raised from this part. Okay, now we will study the main important provision of this act. So let us start. Now I will talk about the Charter Act of 1833. Okay, the Charter Act of 1833. Before you, there is a Charter Act of 1833. After the Act of 1786 and 1793, there is a famous act which is known as Charter Act of 1813. What was the main provision of this Charter Act? First, listen me, and then whatever I am going to tell you, it has been mentioned in this board. Okay, so there is no need to see the details. I will explain you. Actually, you know that in 1793, you know very well that in 1793, the company's monopoly were extended up to 20 years. You know very well. In 1793 Act, company's monopoly were extended for 20 years. The company's monopoly were extended for 20 years. But now in 1813, this 20 years was going to finish. That's why a question arose in British Parliament that this monopoly should again be extended or not. In other words, whether this monopoly should be extended or not. And now British Parliament or British government decided to abolish this monopoly. Why? Because there were so many traders in Britain who creating a pressure on British government or Crown or Parliament to enter into India. There was a question that how long the British East India Company would enjoy monopoly. If other company will also be given such power, then the British will get more benefit. That's why there was a pressure on British Parliament and on the Crown that this monopoly should not be extended, and now the Asia, including India, should be open for all European companies, especially British company. It means now the monopoly should be abolished, and the India and Asia should be opened for all British companies. That's why it has been decided by the British Parliament to abolish the monopoly over trade of East India Company. So the first and foremost point of this act is that this act terminated the monopoly of East India Company, except tea and China. Here one thing has not been mentioned. Except tea and China. Except tea and China. Except tea and China. You should keep in mind, the monopoly was terminated. It means now India and Asia were open for all British companies who wanted to trade in India, along with East India Company. But this monopoly had been continued tea and China. Okay, so keep in mind the monopoly over tea and China had not been abolished. But in India, this monopoly had been abolished. In case of tea and China, this monopoly will remain continue. And the second important point was that Christians missionaries were allowed to preach religion in India. Now British government has decided to allow Christians to propagate their religion in India. First time under this act, British government had allowed Christian missionaries to propagate their religion in India. From 1833, the missionaries will come in India and preach their religion. What was the reason behind this? Why the British government wanted to propagate or spread their religion, especially Christianity, in India? What was the reason behind this? A religion can be used as a tools to win the heart of the people. Here the British government had realized that if the Indians would adopt Christianity, it would be easy for Britishers to win the heart of Indian people. It means very well that the more Christian in India facilitate the smoother administration within the India. Okay, it was all about to maintain the British administration in India. So they decided to increase. They decided to propagate Christian missionaries in India first time in 1830. But it doesn't mean that the first time Indians were going to familiar with the Christianity. No, before East India Company, Portuguese has also started propagating Christianity in India. But as far as Britishers concerned, it was the first time in 1813. And after that, a provision was made to spend 1 lakh rupees on Indian education. There was another provision to invest 1 lakh rupees on Indian education. These 2 points will draw your attention. Why? Because these 2 points create a question in your mind. What was the reason behind this? I have already told the reason behind propagating Christianity in India. Now another question will also rise, why they were investing 1 lakh rupees on Indian education. Why? What was the reason? So I will also explain the reason behind investing 1 lakh rupees on Indian education annually. It was only due to facilitate smoother governance of British East India Company. It means they wanted to facilitate smoother governance in India, gain the favor of existing learned class by making them aware of British knowledge. It would be easy to gain the favor of existing learned class, and they wanted to introduce Western scientific knowledge to the Indians. They also wanted to introduce the Western scientific knowledge Indians, and modernize Indian society and potentially create a workforce with skill useful to the Britishers. It means a educated and modernized Indian society can be used as a skill workforce for the Britishers. In other words, you can say they were also investing 1 lakh rupees annually on Indian education, keeping in mind the educated and cheap labor. It means cheap doesn't mean quality, cheap means low cost labor, because they wanted to educate us so they could get a talented and low cost labor. They wanted to reduce their operating cost in India also. That's why these were the reason That's why the Britishers have invested 1 lakh rupees on Indian education annually. There are so many reasons. I have mentioned all the reasons. Now come to the another point. Laws made by the provincial governors would have to be approved by the British Parliament. There was another important point in 1813. It means whatever the law made by governor of the province would be certified by the British Parliament. It means before this, governor were allowed to handle their province by making their own laws. But after 1813, whatever law the governor would make, it would be certified by the British Parliament. You can say, and you can also realize here, somehow or the other, British government are trying to maintain their control over India, but slowly and gradually. Now we come to the another point, another act which is known as the Charter Act of 1813. What was the Charter Act of 1813? It has also importance like other act in 1813, like the Act of 1813. Now there are some important point of Charter Act of 1813. The first point is that the trading activity of the company in India had been abolished. The trading activity of the company in India had been abolished. The first point is that it means now companies' trading activity were abolished by the British government. You know very well that in 1608, East India Company came in India as a trader, and now from 1608 to 1833 they traded successfully. But in 1833 a rule was made that now the trading activity would be abolished, and the East India Company will work to increase the administration of British India. It means now the company has been turned into a ruling body. It means the main work of company was to maintain their rule in India. It means after 1833, the company was converted into a ruling body from the trading body. Okay, I have cleared you. It means from here you can say the rule of the East India Company has been started. This is the first point of this act. The second point was that the Governor General of Bengal became the Governor General of India. The second point was that now the Governor General of Bengal would be considered a Governor General of India. I will wait your answer in comment box. Who was the first Governor General of India? And now Governor General and his council, you know very well council, I have told you many times. Governor General and his council was given power to make law regarding whole India. It means now the Governor General would work both as a executive and as a legislative. He had both power, legislative power and executive power. On the one hand, he will execute, and on the other, he will legislate. It means the Governor General and his council were given power to make law regarding whole India. This is the another point. Now, there should not be now another point was also, and now another important point was also in this act. There should not be discrimination in ICS, Indian Civil Services, on ground of gender, race, religion and caste. Here the British government has decided to start an open competition in ICS examination, because before this the company's officers were recruited on the recommendation of board of directors. But now British government had realized that it is necessary to appoint the officer on the basis of open examination. That's why they told that the examination should be started to appoint the officer in company, and there should not be discrimination in ICS exam on the basis of gender, race, religion and caste. But East India Company has opposed this provision. That's why it could not be implemented. And later you would came to know that it was again implemented in 1853. So first time British government had made a provision to recruit the ICS officers in company with the examination, but due to the protest of East India Company, this provision could not be implemented, and it was implemented later in 1853. Now, through this act, the slavery system was also abolished. Keep in mind, under which act there was a provision to abolish slavery system. Through 1833 Act, there was a provision to abolish slavery system, but you know, it did not come into effect. It was later finally abolished by Lord Ellenborough in 1843. There was a provision to abolish slavery, but it was not possible to apply immediately. But later, Lord Ellenborough abolished the slavery in India. Keep in mind, Lord Ellenborough. So here may be two questions. In which act it was mentioned that slavery should be abolished in India? In 1833. But which Governor General had abolished the slavery completely? Lord Ellenborough. Lord Ellenborough in 1843. Lord Ellenborough in 1843. Okay? Now, there was a provision to establish a law commission. It means if Governor General and his council were given power to make law, so there should be a law commission to examine the law. That's why first time in India the provision of law commission was made under the Act of 1833. Hence we can say the provision of law commission were made in 1833 Act, and the law commission was established in 1834. Now another point I have not mentioned in this board. The point was that you know very well that in 1773 there was an executive council under the Governor General known as Executive Council. It has 4 members, and in 1784 Act the number of this member has been reduced from 4 to 3. Now in 1833 it was made provision that there would be an additional member in Governor General Executive Council. Additional, I have told you, additional member in Governor General Executive Council, which would be considered as a law member. It means it was not a again the number of member Executive Council has been increased from 3 to 4, but this 4th member was not a permanent member. It was an additional member who was known as Lord Macaulay. Lord Macaulay was the first law member who came in India under the Act of 1833. It means the number of member in Executive Council has been again increased from 3 to 4, but this 4th member was not a permanent member like 3 member. This 4th member was the law member who had a good command over law, and it will help the Governor General while making law. So this law member was the Lord Macaulay, and under the chairmanship of Lord Macaulay, the first law commission was established in India in 1834. So I have told you all the important points of 1813 and 1833. I hope I have cleared all the doubts regarding this act, and in next topic I will explain another act. You know very well this chapter is a very long chapter, but you will have to keep patience, because in this chapter you will have to read a various act, and I am teaching you in a very gradual and social way. So it is very necessary to study this lecture slowly and gradually, because if you will make hurry, you cannot realize the importance of all this act. So many questions has been raised in many examinations. If you study the PYQ, then you will find many questions have been asked from the Act of 1833, 1813. So you should read it slow and steady, because you know very well, slow and steady wins the race first. Okay, I will meet you in next lecture. Thank you very much.